Hey there, welcome to the channel. This is Caffeinicus, and today's video will showcase a game in the Tier 9 Soviet battleship, the Sovetsky Soyuz. We're playing in the revamped arms race game mode in World of Warships, which was reintroduced in patch 0.10.10. The premise remains the same. You still have various buffs scattered across the map, and players can pick up these buffs for their team by simply driving their ships into the buff zones whenever they become active. In addition, after about 8 minutes, a capture point appears in the middle of the map. The team that captures this area starts gaining a bunch of points every few seconds, which can quickly lead to a win. So you'll have to contest for the area as soon as possible once it goes live. There's a timer in-game that tells you when the area appears, but it's bugged in my replay, so please ignore that for now. Anyway, let's talk a bit about the ship while we're moving into position. I finally finished the grind in the Vladivostok, and I was really taking my time there, to be honest. The Sovetsky Soyuz at Tier 9 feels very much like the Vlad, but with some improvements in gun handling. You still have the same 3x3 configuration for your 406mm main guns, but the guns now turn a lot quicker with an amazing 30-second base 180-degree turn time. That's near cruiser level turret traverse. Your maximum range is now 19.4 kilometers with the upgraded FCS, which isn't great compared to other battleships at this tier, but it's better than the Vlad's 18 kilometers. In addition, your shell velocity is so much faster on the Soyuz, so that helps when leading targets. The max AP damage of 13,250 is on the high end for Tech 3 battleships at this tier, while the HE damage of 5,800 is no slouch either. Still, I'd recommend slinging AP over HE in the Soyuz, as you've got good shell velocity and you don't lose as much penetration over distances compared to other Tech 3 battleships of this tier. Also, one thing to note with the Soviet battleships, I find that their accuracy gets really crazy the closer you get to your target. Especially at 12 or 13 kilometers and below, you can almost hit a nail on the head, it feels like, and we'll see that in this game as well. And next, let's talk about the armor scheme. The Soyuz, like the Vlad, has 32mm of armor on its fore and aft ends. However, unlike the Vlad, the frontal plate feels a lot shorter, and the streak of armor on the waterline is now 220mm thick and covers more of the frontal plate in terms of height from the waterline. And if you look carefully, there are 420mm plates right under your frontal turrets, so as long as you angle slightly off bow in, you'll be able to bounce just about any AP shells fired at your ship. Not only that, you also have 60mm of armor on the main deck, so most cruiser HE shells will just shatter, making the Soyuz very resistant to HE spam as well. Just don't show other battleships your flat broadside, and the Soyuz is a tanky beast. Backing up that armor is an HP pool of 88,100, which puts all the other Tech 3 battleships to shame. You also have the usual fast-acting Russian DCP with a 10-second action time and 38-second cooldown, in case some HE spammer decides to try to turn you into a barbecue. And by the way, if you were disappointed with that salvo, so was I. The Brindisi disappeared just before I fired, and I failed to delete him. But don't worry, we do get him in the end. Anyway, if the Soyuz sounds like a hunky-dory battleship, well, it is. Actually not, but the downsides aren't exactly terrible. The gun range is not great as I mentioned earlier, and there's also the relatively slow reload speed. The Soyuz also has issues against carriers. This is no Iowa or Minnesota, for example, though you do have a catapult fighter to help a bit in that department. And finally, 28 knots base top speed is among the slowest at tier 9. And while the base rudder shift is nice at 14.9 seconds, the turning radius of 950 meters sometimes makes it feel like you're driving a freight truck. But enough about the stats, let's take a look at the gameplay. I've gotten to my island at E4, and I'm using it to cover my hull from enemies to the east. That way, I can focus on angling against anything south of me, as well as the Pommern who is sailing up the one line. We've met and conquered the Brindisi, who happily gave me his broadside, but I do have to be careful of the Shetland's torpedoes, so I backed away for a bit. The Soyuz does have a 35% torpedo damage reduction, which is nice. I'm now in cover against the Izumo and potential torps, and will take some shots at the Pommern. If we can get rid of him, I can push out without fear of taking shots to my broadside. And I also don't want to back up too far, as that will open me up to shots from the Lopanto to the southeast. We get a decent hit on the Pommern, and I will slowly peek out again. I'm also trying to angle my ship against both the Pommern and the Izumo and do some tanking for my friendly cruisers. The Izumo sailed out from behind his island, and it's lunchtime. We are nicely angled and take minimal damage from the Izumo, and we put 32,000 damage into him. But the pesky Jutland is back, so I've got to back up and try to focus on him instead of the nice juicy battleship broadside. We call in fire on that destroyer and get an island between his torpedoes and my hull. The Jutland disappears, but the Izumo is still broadside. So, have another 32,000 damage. We successfully dodged the torpedoes by reversing our ship, so we're safe for the moment. I check on the Pommern, and he's presenting a nice broadside, but I really want to finish the Izumo to take out the threat. The Pommern is also much further out, and these guns start to get rather inaccurate at range. Unfortunately, by the time my guns reload, the Izumo is no longer broadside and is sailing away at an angle. So I keep my fire on him to try to take his guns out of the game. We only do 6k damage this time as we get a couple of non-pens. But we do shrug off the Pommern's shells here, so that's nice. The enemy Jutland pops out in front of me once again, and he's less than 7 kilometers away. So let's just see if we can finish him off with some help from our friends. If anything, I do like shooting destroyers at close ranges in Soviet battleships, because the guns just become insanely accurate up close and personal. Anyway, we'll also back up a bit to throw off any torpedoes the Jutland may have launched. And we're also going to take a punt at the Izumo to see if we can finish him off. But unfortunately, it looks like our Thunderer is going to burn him down before our shells land. Oh well, that's fine. I chewed up that battleship enough earlier on anyway. My next target will be the cruisers to the south of my position, on the other side of this island. Since the Pommern has started to run away to the south, I'll be able to maintain a decent angle against him as long as I don't go full bow in against those cruisers. In the meanwhile though, let's take a shot at the Pommern and see if we can get some bonus damage. We fire, but unfortunately it looks like my shells are going to land long. But that's okay. I don't really count on getting any good hits out at that range anyway, at least not in Soviet battleships. And now we're gonna put that quick turret traverse to good use and turn our guns back in as we round the island so that we can give those two cruisers the good news. We've got a pick of a Moskva who's backing away and angling, and a Neptune who is bow in. Let's go for the Neptune first. It's a light cruiser and we can overmatch his frontal plate. No citadels on our first salvo, but we do get 20,000 damage on him before he smokes up. I keep checking on the Pommern just in case he fires at me, but I think my angle here is fine. We'll just reload and charge into the cruisers, but I also have to be careful of the Neptune's torpedoes. The Neptune pops back into view, so let's give him some love. 2 citadels with the frontal guns, and another with the rear turret, and it's good night Neptune. The bomber is still shooting at me, but it's HE. Maybe he got annoyed at not doing any damage to me with his AP shells. That German HE could actually pen the 60mm deck on the Soyuz though, but I'm not too fussed at this point. Oh, he got a fire, and someone broke my rear turret just as my DCP ran out. Oh, whatever. My next target is the Moskva, so I'll just turn in here and see if I can have him join his Neptune buddy. I will have to give the Pommern my side though, but hopefully he'll get bored and find somebody else to shoot at. The Moskva turns on his radar, so that ruins the surprise. But I think he's going to run aground on this little island. Yep, he's definitely run aground. Come on, ship, clear the island. I start to aim my guns, make sure that I've cleared the island. We fire, and we wreck that Moskva. We're now up to 4 kills and 232,000 damage, so I'm really happy with this game at this point. It's a very rare thing for me to break 200,000, and yes, I know this is arms race, but still, I'll take it. Now, let's be greedy and go get some more out of this game. There's a Thunderer at 13 kilometers in front of me, so let's see if we can pad our numbers with his HP pool. We fire before he gets behind the island, and wow, Stalin guide my shells. We take out the Thunderer with 3 citadels. We're up over 278,000 damage now, and I really want to break 300,000. Our Georgia and Halan are holding the cap against the enemy Lepanto, who's nearly full HP. So I push in to see if I can get some hits off of that Italian battleship. There's also some shells coming from behind the F6 island, so that's probably the Salem, based on his last known position. And there he is. It's a nice broadside. We aim, and we fire, and we take out that Salem for our 6th kill. Unfortunately though, I think that taking out that Salem probably ruined my chances at 300,000, as the Halan's torpedoes smashes the Lepanto down to size. Still, we aim and we fire our shot here, and we finish off the Lepanto to end the game. So, let's take a look at the post-game results. We did just shy of 296,000 damage in this game, so close to my first ever 300,000 damage game. Oh well, I'll take it. 7 kills and 16 citadel hits from the Soyuz, showing how lethal the ship can be when you get in close. There aren't any achievements in arms race, of course, so no shiny medals this time. Our base XP was 3476 to top our team. We sunk 7 of the 9 ships that we hit, and surprisingly the accuracy wasn't too bad either. 51 hits on 126 shells fired, but we were up close and personal most of this game. We didn't tank very much though, only 1.1 million potential, and we really didn't get shot at very much here, considering I've had games with upwards of 3 million potential in the Soyuz. And finally, of course, credit and XP wise, not too bad at all considering our results. For anyone interested, here are the equipment and captain skills I use for the Soyuz. Main armaments mod 1, damage control mod 1, aiming systems mod 1 because your turret traverse is already great and you want to improve its accuracy. Steering gears, concealment and main battery mod 3 to boost your reload. You don't get any choices in your consumables, and it's worth noting that the Soyuz really has no way of spotting for itself or extending its firing range. However, because you do have a catapult fighter, you can kind of use that to help spot for torpedoes or ships on the other side of islands. So if you're wondering why I launched my fighter several times during this game, that's really what it was. For captain skills, I have emergency repair party, preventative maintenance, grease the gears to just kind of offset the turret traverse reduction from MPM3, and just generally make my cave trolls work harder. Priority targets, adrenaline rush, concealment expertise, emergency report expert, and fire prevention. For upgrade path, I'd recommend going with the hull first and then the FCS. You really want to be getting close and hitting people with your sword, so to speak. So I find the extra HP and maneuverability more important than the range. Anyway, the Sovetsky Soyuz in a nutshell. I really like this ship. It's a good progression from the Vladivostok, and unlike a lot of the other Tier 9 ships, and I'm looking at you, Lion and Neptune, St. Louis, Seattle, Frederick the Grosser, never mind. A lot of the Tier 9 ships feel like a letdown compared to their Tier 8 counterparts, but the Soyuz just feels extremely comfortable to play and a nice upgrade. Find a position where you can fight at about 12, 13 kilometers. Stay slightly angled to your enemies and just tank them and wreck them. The game modes like Arms Race or Epicenter suits its style as teams have to push in closer to the objective, and this allows the Soyuz to shine. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe and like buttons below as it helps me grow the channel. You can also click the bell to get notifications the next time I post videos. Also, if you're in the US, I hope you all have a happy Turkey Day next week, and thank you for watching and take care.